riding along on two wheels is a lot of fun, but it's also challenging at the best of times. And let's take a look. We have somebody doing a U-turn in front of me, and he doesn't really seem to be, able to know that somebody else is coming along. And we find this far too often, so never assume everything is going to be okay. Anyway, let's get out of here and let's head for the country. And yes, that's snow on the side of the road, and that's part of what this video is all about, the cold and the snow. Oh, hi there. We're looking at driving and riding in cold weather. And if you live in Canada and a lot of other northern climates, that is a real challenge for some people because they don't really prepare for it. And yes, it's nice to go out for a ride. We all love to go for a ride on our bike. And in these times coming up of spring and the fall, and maybe even into the winter, it's nice to get out on your bike every once in a while just to clear your head. But sometimes it's not that easy to go out and clear your head if you're not prepared for it. So let's take a look at some of the things that help prepare us for getting ready to get out on that road so that we are not taken by surprise. So how are your tires? Are they scuffed? Are they new? Are they old? Do they have tread? That's all going to play a big part here, simply because your tires are going to be in the contact with the road, keeping in mind the road is cold, and in a lot of cases, so are your tires. This tire not so much, because basically it's brand new. It still has silicone on it, which means that if it gets wet or it's on cold asphalt, it's going to be extremely slippery. And do you know the compound rating of your tires in any of the positions that's shown on this diagram? Keep in mind, the harder the tire, the less grip it has, especially in cold weather. It'll last longer, but its grip is not as great. So now that we've looked at our tires and we've found out, yep, they work, it's going to be okay, but still keep some things in mind. With colder asphalt surface, and as well with the colder tires, and if you're down below 7 degrees Celsius, your tires don't grip as well as they used to, regardless of what the compound is in them. And as we do that, we have to keep in mind that on corners, and especially coming to a quick stop, we are not going to be able to stop as quickly without sliding. So therefore, as you come into an intersection or you're looking ahead of you, you got to be more aware of what you're going to do. Keeping in mind, as we already saw, that person that isn't looking and making a U-turn in front of us without even looking at us. Okay? All right. So we've taken care of that. So let's take care of us. And let's start the fact that hypothermia is real. It really is real, especially you get out there and you say, oh, I'm not going to get it, I'm not in water. Hypothermia can occur to you just by air temperature. And if you take a look at some of these charts on air temperature, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now, there's the actual air temperature, but there's also the feel-like temperature caused by moving air. And for example, doing 80, 90, or 100 kilometers an hour, you'll note that the temperature goes from 7 degrees and with a feel of 0 degrees Celsius. And for our American cousins south of the border, that would be 32 degrees Fahrenheit doing the same speed. So how are we going to beat that? Let's take a look at some of the ways in which we're going to beat it. Number one, let's put on some good socks. Maybe a couple of pairs of socks. Because as we go through this, we're going to talk about layering. And it doesn't hurt to layer your socks. A couple of thin pairs actually works better than a thick pair. Two, how about your boots? Those nice airflow boots that you were wearing throughout the summer may not be as comfy as it is wearing something a little bit heavier, a little bit less airflow. So you want to have something that's got good air resistance to it. And it doesn't hurt whether they have a liner or what. So what's this really meaning? You probably, if you want to ride in the cold weather, you're going to have a couple of different pairs of boots throughout the year. Let's take a look at something else. We've got good windproof riding pants. We have a vest, and in this particular case, it's an electric vest that is going to plug in to help heat my body. And then another sweater. Remember, we're layering here. And then finally, we're going to put our jacket on, snap it up to keep the air out, Oh yes, we better put some gloves on. How about neoprene on the inside? Then we're going to put a nice warm glove on the outside. And by the way, those summer gloves that you wore really are not going to cover it. And as I tried to show there in that video, make sure that this part goes up and over top of your jacket. That'll keep the air from flowing up the sleeve and getting you cold. And don't forget about your neck and the air going around the top of your jacket. Let's block it with a scarf or a balaclava. And last but not least, just before we go, we usually put our helmet on. If you have an open face helmet, you're going to want to put something over your face to protect it. It doesn't take long at a very cold weather to make that hit, even to the point of close to frostbite. So if you have an open face helmet, it's a little bit more difficult than whether you have a closed face helmet like this, where you can put this down pretty well all the way. And if it starts to fog up, just leave it up just a slight bit, and that allows some airflow in there. Still won't be as warm as you want it to be, but at least it's better than it would be if it was open face. But that is entirely up to you. Some other things that you can add to make sure that you're warm at least as much as possible. If you have heated grips, what a beautiful thing those are. Some people have heated seats, heated socks, heated boots, whatever you have. It all comes in handy, but if you don't have that kind of equipment, maybe you can go for something just a little bit less expensive. And you can pick up some of these heat packs, chemically made. Just break them up, and what they'll do is they'll slip inside of your gloves, on the back side especially, because that's the side that's facing the cold air. So that'll keep the back of your hand warmer, keeps your fingers a little bit more supple. That way, when it comes time to brake or to use the clutch, you're going to find it a heck of a lot easier. You can even put those down inside your boots and in your socks. I've taken them and put them inside of my inside liner, and that just a little bit in my core area has kept me a little bit warmer. So those are some of the things that you can come up with that is going to help you through the cold, trying times. So now we're on the road and we're enjoying the scenery. There's not much traffic here right now, but speaking of traffic, keep an eye out, because as the weather gets cold, or it has been cold, other drivers are not looking for you. As we ride along, there's a sign on the right-hand side that shows the angle at which the tracks are ahead of you to go along with that X in the middle on the road. So slow down, because those steel rails are going to be extremely slippery, especially when it's cold. So try to go at an angle that is best suited, but stay in your lane. And through the magic of editing, we've just done that. By the way, you did look both ways before you crossed the tracks, right? Because remember, any time is train time. Oh look, potholes by tracks. How unique. Now, another thing that we have to look out for are bridges, because bridges have a tendency to freeze or get frost long before the road surface does. And try to go through. Don't try to brake if you can. Get the speed you want before you approach them. So things are going along pretty good. Now we're coming to a divided highway, and ahead of us at an intersection, we have to look out for something, and that's the paint on the road. We all know that paint can be slippery when it's wet, but it also is equally slippery when it's cold. So do your best to make sure that you're not parked on any of those arrows or any of the paint that's on the road surface, because it can become a chance for your bike to slip out from underneath of you. Oh, you'll notice my 2-second following distance behind the vehicle in front of me. Now as we get off, we're going to go over these painted arrows, but I'm going to miss this one so that I can do my braking. And now, because I've got more paint in the corner, I'm going to bring my bike more upright, get across it, and then continue into the lane that I need to get into. In this particular case, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. You'll notice there's green, and that's for the bike crossing. Although it's great for bikes, it's not so great for motorcyclists to go around corners. Again, we get in more in an upright position. Now we'll lean and continue on our journey. In this scenario, we have warning painted bars on the road, but they become slippery, especially when they're on the corner. So we're going to cut inside, get away from the paint as much as we can, become upright, approach our bridge, which remember can be frosty. We've slowed down before we get there. Watch out for the expanders, they're slippery. And then once we get around the corner, we can accelerate. Might as well get used to the fact that if you're living in Canada and a lot of northern countries, you're going to be riding in cold weather. So you might as well embrace it, you might as well enjoy it, because that's a big part of our riding season. And oh yes, while you're out there riding, one of the things I found that really works for me is taking off and going out and have a good cup of Tim's or Starbucks or whatever. Doesn't hurt to get off your bike every little bit, find a nice warm spot. And if this doesn't do it for you, maybe just psychologically being inside a warm building will. But for me, there's nothing like a good cup of coffee. Take care. We'll see you next time.